Hello friends, welcome to okayjava. In this video, I'll show you how can you set up managed Kubernetes cluster on Google Cloud. So if you guys remember in this particular video, I have already explained how can you create a Kubernetes cluster by using the command. So completely a manual task. We executed all the commands mentioned here to set up our cluster, our Kubernetes cluster with one master and two nodes, right? So it was a complete manual process. Now in this video, we are going to talk about managed Kubernetes cluster. When it comes to managed, it means Google is already providing a service that you can use to create a cluster. It means that you don't have to go and run the commands yourself to set up a cluster or a master. Everything is completely managed by Google. Now, what is Kubernetes Engine API? So guys, if you remember in Google Cloud, if you have to create a virtual machine, you have to make use of something called compute engine, right? Let me show you. This is my Google Cloud platform, right? GCP console. So compute engine is the API that creates a virtual machine for you. Similarly, if you have to create a cluster, we have to make use of something called Kubernetes Engine API, right? So Kubernetes Engine API is the backbone of your cluster, right? So we use Kubernetes Engine API to build and manage container-based application in Google Cloud platform. All right. Now, in Google Cloud, you won't be able to access your master node. So basically, your master node is completely controlled and managed by Google Cloud or GKE, Google Kubernetes Engine. You can access your worker nodes, right? So the only restriction is that you cannot access your master node in Google Cloud if you are using Google Cloud Managed Service. All right, I'll show you actually in the demo section. Let's move. Now, Google Kubernetes Engine API. Let's talk about the deployment modes. So Google provides two ways to create a cluster. One is standard. It means that you are going to configure and manage your nodes yourself. All right. Second option is autopilot. It means that you just have to provide the very minimal information. Rest of the things will be taken care by the GKE itself. All right. So in this video, we'll talk about standard mode. All right, guys. Now let's go to Google Cloud Console. Here we are. Now to create a cluster, we have to go to compute engine section here, and then let's go and click on clusters, right? Now let's go and click on create. If you want, you can click here, or there is one more option. Click on create to create a managed Kubernetes cluster in Google Cloud. Now you see here, there are two options to create. One is GKE standard, where you have to provide or you have to do all your configurations. You have to manage all your nodes. And there is another option called GKE autopilot, where you have to provide the very minimal information. Okay, but in this video, we'll talk about GKE standard, this particular approach. Let's click on configure. All right, guys, if you see here on your left hand side, the very first option is cluster basics, where you have to provide the basic information about your cluster. If you go to second option called node pools, so this is the pool where you have to provide your node information. So it's a kind of template. You need to provide this information only once, and then you can create multiple nodes having same configuration, having same setup. All right. So under default, under node pools, we have three more sections. We'll talk about each one. And then there is one more option called cluster. So this is again a cluster level configuration. All right, guys. So let's go to the cluster basics. The very first option. Let's provide our cluster name. So let's call it K8S Managed Cluster. I'm calling it Managed Cluster. All right, guys. Now location type is a journal or a regional. What does it mean? So basically journal, you can say it's like a particular area, one zone where you can have multiple data centers, but one specific location. Regional is bigger than a zone. So a regional, second option, can have multiple zones in it, right? So basically you have a broader area, or you can say where you have multiple options to choose your server location, right? So for example, if I choose journal, and then you see here by default I'm getting US Central C. So basically this is the location where I can have my master node and worker nodes, right? But if you see here, specify default node locations. Now if I have to change that, I want my nodes to some other locations, right? So I can go and choose US Central 1A or US Central 1B. If I just want all my worker nodes and my master into the same location, US Central C, right? Now if I go and choose the second option called regional, you will see like by default it picks US Central 1, but you see there are so many other options. And if you go and click on this one that I want to specify the location for my nodes, I can click on this one, and now you see you have got more options to choose from, right? For now I'm just going to uncheck this one. If you guys want, you can keep journal by default value, or if you want, you can keep US Central. All right. Now next thing is control plane version. So control plane is going to be your master. Okay, so here what it says, if you see it, by default it picks a release channel. Then so this is your default. There are three actually. So it picks a regular one by default and a Kubernetes cluster version. If you want, you can choose any other as well, but let's go with this one. Now like for example, if you go and change, right, so rapid channel, you will have all these options, but if you go and select stable, you will see a different, that it picks version 1.19, that is stable release, right? But if you pick regular, so it automatically takes care of your upgrades or updates. You can go and select the static as well, and then you can go and select your version that you want to install. Okay, now let's go to the node pulls section. So this is a kind of a template, so you have to configure this information only once, and then it will be repeated for all your nodes, same configuration, right? So let's call it node pull, right? Node version, I just want to same as our master. Now it says the number of nodes you want. You can create 2, if you want you can create 3, you can create 5 nodes and all, right? So I'll keep 3 for now. Enable auto scaling and specified node location, if you want you can select, that doesn't matter for us for now. Alright, now max surge and max unavailable, these are two concepts in Kubernetes cluster. Alright guys, now let's go to nodes. So here you have to select your configuration for your virtual machine, or basically for your worker nodes, right? So let's go and change the image that I want to have is Ubuntu with Docker. So basically this particular image, it's Ubuntu only, but it has Docker installed already. Okay, and I'll go with E2 series. I have already explained in one of the video how can you create a VM. I'll go with the same configuration, 2 virtual core and 4 GB of the memory. This is good enough for my demo, but this particular configuration is not good enough for your production or for your dev environment. You should go and change it to something better, like from standard. Okay, now say boot decides I'm okay to have 10 GB, good enough for me, and I'll keep rest of things as it is. Security, I'm okay with this one. Let's make it more secure by clicking on this one, enable secure boot. Okay, so metadata, if you want to add some sort of labels, let's call it honor, let's call it okayjava, and then you can create environment, let's say dev, right, just like that. And so taint is again a very good concept in cluster, so I'll keep rest as it is. Let's go to the cluster level settings. Automation, if you want to set up some sort of automation for your automatic maintenance, auto scaling and auto provisioning. So if you want to set a maintenance window, that you can do like weekly, or you can choose any custom date and time, right? You can choose your week day, and you can also choose the time and everything, right? So basically you can set up your own maintenance window. Okay, so for now I don't want, so I'll just uncheck. Okay, so networking will keep default. Security is more important thing, right? So better you visit, if you click on this particular icon, you'll get more information about each section, right? Metadata is okay, and features is I'll keep as it is, right guys? So now let's go and click on create. So we are going to create our, so I have changed the location. All right guys, this is good now. So basically you can see here, right, that we are going to create our Kubernetes cluster, managed Kubernetes cluster, and I'm going to have 3 nodes that you can see here. Okay, so very soon you will see the CPU cores. If you guys remember, node can have 2 virtual CPU cores and I believe 4 GB of the memory, right? So you will see the total computing power of your cluster. So you will see here 2 into 3 6 virtual CPU cores, and 4 into 3 12 GB of the memory. Okay, so it will take a moment, so we just have to wait for that. Alright guys, so we have our cluster ready. If I click on this one, so here you can see the details about your cluster basics, automation, networking. If you go to the nodes, you will see you have one node pool. You have 3 nodes in your cluster. Here is your machine type. Here is your image. Okay. And here also you can see that in your cluster you have got 3 nodes, node 1, node 2 and node 3. Now if you want to add more nodes, you can add another node pool and then you can add more nodes to your cluster, right? Now, for example, if you want to see those virtual machines, where are those machines? Because worker nodes are in the background, virtual machines only, right? So if you go to your compute section, compute engine, and if you click on VM instances, so you see here, so these 3 are the virtual machines created by the GKE, right? So basically these 3 are your worker nodes. If you want, you can simply go and connect from here, but I'll just explain how can you access your cluster now, right? So let's go back to the cluster, Kubernetes engine, go to clusters and let's click on this one. Now you see here there is an option called connect. Let's click on this one. So there is a command to connect to your cluster. Let's copy this command, right? I'm going to click on OK and let's go and open this guy here. You see there is an icon to open a cloud shell. Okay, now you see there is a little window, a cloud shell into a new window. Let's click on this one. Okay, so basically now here you have a big window. Now guys, we are going to connect to our cluster, right? So we copied the command from here. Remember this one, this command, I'll copy again. Okay, and let's go to Cloud Shell and then paste this one here. Now it says authorize, click on authorize, right? Now if I go and run this command, say kubectl ports, right? So obviously at the moment I don't have anything, so there's nothing in the default namespace, right? So I'm just going to, I'll just quickly go and create a couple of nodes and then I'll delete, right? So kubectl, let's say run command, and then what do you want? You want to create a pod, right? Let's call it pod 1 image, say engine X. You see pod 1 created, right? So kubectl run command, I can go and create another image, say this time alpine, second pod created, right? So this is how you can go and you can run all your commands, say pod 3, and again you want to create one more engine X image. Right now, if you go kubectl get pods, so you will see that you have got 3, but only one is running at the moment. Second one is completed, and this one is still creating, right? So let's rerun the command. So you see, you have got 2, right, guys? So the point is, once you have access to your cluster, right, to your node, you can run all your commands. You can create, you can play with this one, you can run all your Docker commands, right? And if you want, you can delete also. For example, let me just run one more time. Say I want to delete my port 2, right? So what I can do is I'll run kubectl, right? Kubectl is the command, and then delete. I want to delete a port name is port 2. It says port 2 deleted, right? So for example, if I have to delete everything, so what I can do is delete all and then dash all. Simple. Alright, so let me click on exit. Now guys, I have explained, so this is how you can go and you can create a Kubernetes cluster, basically a managed Kubernetes cluster, nodes. So here you have access to your nodes, but you don't see your master, right? So this is what a managed Kubernetes cluster means. So it is, your master is completely controlled and managed by Google Cloud. So you don't even have access. You don't even see your master here. Alright guys. So this is how you can go and can set up managed Kubernetes cluster on Google Cloud platform. Alright. Now guys, before I end this video, I just want to make sure that you delete all these resources, else you will be charged. Right, because here you are using 3 worker nodes, so basically you are using 3 virtual machine, right? So you will be charged, right? So let's go and delete this one. So I'm going to delete my cluster. Alright guys, now it will take some time. Alright guys, so in this video we have covered the very first option, very first deployment mode. Maybe in the coming videos we'll talk about the autopilot. Alright, thank you for watching and bye for now.